Hi everybody, it's February 6, 2016. I haven't seen any videos on this, the Pentagon's Law of War Manual. Not saying they're not out there, but I haven't seen them. So I want to bring your attention to a 4-part series that was posted on Global Research. And as far as I'm concerned, it should be required reading for every American. The reason why I'm bringing it to your attention is maybe you want to print it out, give it to those in your lives that still believe that they're living in the freest nation in the land, in the world. Pentagon's Law of War Manual, a blueprint for total war and military dictatorship all over the world. World domination. It's a manual for world domination by the Pentagon. According to the manual, the law of war supersedes international human rights treaties as well as the United States Constitution. It authorizes the killing of civilians, mass killing of civilians during armed conflict, the censorship and targeting of journalists as unprivileged belligerents, which we know the definition of unprivileged means they have no rights. Requires journalists to obtain permission and identification documents from the military to conduct their work. It allows the punishment of journalists just based on the say-so of military officials that deem them spies. It freely discusses the use of nuclear weapons, does not prohibit napalm, depleted uranium, munitions, cluster bombs, other weapons. We know that our military has used all of these weapons for decades. But this Law of War Manual explicitly gives the Pentagon the right to interpret international and domestic law as they see fit, superseding our Bill of Rights, Constitution. We know that in times of war, the law falls silent. Many of us know that we are no longer a country ruled by law. Many of us realize that we have been in a permanent state of war, certainly since 9/11, 2001, the war on terror. We know that our government officials and our military has just been defining for itself what the law is. But many Americans don't. Remember Eisenhower warning Americans of this military-industrial complex, essentially warning Americans that this military-industrial complex will eventually take over, that the United States would eventually become a military dictatorship unless the people stop it. The only way to prevent it, he said, was an informed citizenry. We don't have an informed citizenry today. Very few are informed. That's why it's so important to post these videos. That's why it's so important for people to circulate information. That's why it's so important for everybody to print out this 4-part series and slap it down in front of those in your life and ask them to read it. We know that we can lead a horse to water, but we can't make it drink. We can't force people to read something they don't want to read, but we can ask them. We can ask them. We can do our part to try our damnedest to wake people up to what is taking place here. What is taking place, this Law of War Manual, it elaborates protocols for military operations in every corner of the globe by the Pentagon and its proxy forces. Those proxy forces are mercenaries, terrorist organizations like ISIS. It amounts to a manifesto for this process set down in legal jargon. If the guidelines laid out in the manual are allowed to be implemented, that is, if the international working class does not intervene in time on the basis of a revolutionary program, people, in other words, the working class, the people stop this from occurring, then humankind faces a future dominated by concentration camps, slaughter on an unprecedented scale, and ultimately a nuclear holocaust. This is absolutely coming. Many, many of you know this, but so many Americans are just still living this delusion that we're still the United States of America, that we're still a country ruled by law, that we still have constitutional rights. It is really staggering, the incomprehensibility that I know floods all of your brains. It certainly floods mine of what's taking place here today is really, it's hard to take. But the document also contradicts principles laid out at the Nuremberg Tribunal. This document, this law of war manual, excuses all order followers. So how many comments have I read throughout the years of people saying, follow orders, you don't have an excuse? No, you do, actually, because the document states subordinates, absent specific knowledge to the contrary, may presume orders to be lawful. The acts of a subordinate done in compliance with an unlawful order given by a superior are generally excused. Don't worry, you guys, you can do whatever the hell you want, as long as it was an order given to you by a superior. Doesn't matter if it's unlawful anymore. You're just excused. That our Pentagon is actually giving authority to itself, that in itself should wake up every American to the fact that we now have a military dictatorship here in this country. It is giving to itself all authority it wants. That means we no longer have 3 branches in our government. We no longer have a constitution. They're doing whatever the hell they want to do, and eventually that is going to manifest a very, very dark, dark time, unless the people rise up and demand that it stop. It means the people have to somehow regain that psyche that allowed them to know that it was actually we the people, that they actually have power, that they do not have to submit and obey and comply with authority, that they are the only authority, that every individual is their own authority. So I will link below to all 4 parts. I hope you all print it out. I hope you all circulate this. It is very, very important. And I agree with the author of this article. It really should have been titled A Manifesto for Total War and Military Dictatorship All Over the Globe.